If the power goes out and you're home, you can fire up the generator and keep an eye on things, right? But what happens if there's a power outage and you're away from home? Well, now you've got some things to worry about, don't you? I've got a way you can prepare for that, and 3 big reasons why you can worry a little bit less this winter. Stick around. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Thank you for stopping by. I've got the new Oupes Mega3 power station and solar generator here. Let's take a look at it and why this is going to ease your mind as we head into another cold, dark winter. Make sure you stay for the end of the video. I found one really surprising feature with this thing. You could even say it may shock you. And I've got a couple tricks you can use to get one of these for yourself at a wicked awesome price. Let's start with the elephant in the room. This thing is huge. No, I'm talking about the power station. This thing is rated at 3,600 watts with a 7,000 watt max peak and has a 3,072 watt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. With that being said, with all of the components inside and that huge battery, this weighs in at 83 pounds. Luckily, it has 2 handles here on either end so that 2 people can grab it, 1 on each side. It also has a set of wheels and a handle that extends out so you can roll it around like a piece of luggage. That definitely makes all the difference in the world to me. We have 3 Oupes generators now, but this is the biggest one we have by far. But I think that's a very important subject to touch on a little bit here. I've always really liked the idea of having a solar generator for backup power supply, but before we got our first one, I had it set in my mind that we would wait, save up some money, and buy the biggest one we could possibly afford. I think that's probably what most people do, right? Why spend money on a small power station that might not run all of the devices that you need to run, or at least not for very long? But the more I thought about it, the more I just wanted to get one and try it out instead of waiting. And I'm so glad that I did. Now I can see why there are so many advantages to having multiple power stations of various sizes, not just the biggest one. Instead of moving this all around our house to power things in different rooms or running extension cords all over the place, we can just keep one power station in each different area of the house, all charged up and ready to go in the event of an emergency. Smaller ones fit perfectly in closets and sometimes even under beds. And then we can keep the larger one, like this one, closer to the kitchen or in the basement, where we'll be more apt to need more power and for longer amounts of time. With that being said, another great feature that I love about the Mega3 is its expandability, all the way up to 15 kilowatt hours. And you can gradually do this over time. You can get this unit to start out with, and then add one of the Oupes B2 batteries one at a time, each one adding an extra 2,048 watt hours, all the way up to having up to 6 of the batteries connected at once. That's huge. This port right here is where you would start connecting those batteries behind this door. Above that, we have these circuit breakers for the input and output. We have input for the AC charging cable and the Anderson connector input for the solar panels. So let's talk about charging for a second since I'm right here. The Oupes Mega3 can be fast charged at 1,800 watts and it can actually be fully charged in under 2 hours. That is crazy fast. But that's also a lot of power to be drawing from your home outlet. So the smart folks at Oupes included a setting in the menu where you can adjust the charging from 1,800 watts down to 900 watts. That way it'll put less load on your house circuit. That was a really surprising hidden feature to me, and I can see where it would be a totally great idea. They literally think of everything. Now, if you're not familiar with this type of power station, you're probably thinking, well, that's fine, I can charge it up and have it ready for a power outage, but eventually the battery is going to be depleted. And with no electricity coming into the home, how am I supposed to recharge it? That's a valid point. So with this Mega3, you can actually connect up to 6 240 watt solar panels all at once. And with full sun, you can get it fully recharged in about 2.5 hours. What's even better than that is taking advantage of pass-through charging, which means you can be putting power into the unit with your solar panels while you're using the power at the same time. If you use it wisely and take advantage of the sun while it's out, you can conserve and manage the power that you use and keep this going day after day. One more charging feature this has is the Mega3 comes with an adapter that allows you to charge this from the 12-volt plug in your vehicle. Think of this as more of a trickle-in charger though, because you're only going to get around 90 watts of power going in. We experienced that with some of our other power stations when we went camping this summer. It rained almost the entire time, so we decided to start up our van and charge the power station through the 12-volt plug. and it took a very, very long time, but it did work, and it's a great backup plan. Now let's take a quick look at how you get the electricity back out of this machine. The Oupes Mega3 has 16 outlets total, and I'm going to just point them out real quickly for you. Across the front here, there are 5 standard 120 volt, 20 amp wall outlets. And remember, this unit puts out pure sine wave electricity, which means it supplies a nice, steady, clean power, just like you would expect to get from your utility company. That's important for a lot of electronic devices, medical equipment, and that's one of the many advantages that this has over most gas generators. Over here is the 30 amp TT30 RV plug. It's got 2 100 watt USB-C outlets, 4 USB-A outlets, a 12 volt socket, 2 DC barrel connectors, and this thing here might look familiar to you. This is a 30 amp Anderson connector for DC output as opposed to the input connector on the side for connecting solar panels. I'm going to be honest, this had both me and Mr. Wicked Prepared stumped when we first unboxed this. Between the two of us, we couldn't recall ever seeing anything that would plug into an output like this. So if you have a device that has used this kind of plug, leave me a comment below and let me know what it is. But true story, this particular plug saved the day when we shot the footage for the testing portion of this video. I'll be showing that testing and our little mishap in just a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. Now, right in the middle here, this of course is the display. I love what Oupes does with their displays. In fact, I'm pretty sure that this is the same screen they used, even down to the smallest Oupes unit that we have. It's simple, easy to read, but it gives all the information you need. Power in, power out, battery percentage left, watt hours left, and then it tells you each section that you have powered on. That's important to remember. Each of these sections of outlets has its own button to turn them off and on. And in addition to the screen here on the unit, you can also use your phone to monitor and control the unit remotely if that's something that you're interested in. One of the reasons I like to be prepared, and maybe you feel the same way, is I like to feel a little less worried in a world where there's plenty of things to be worried about. Leave me a comment down below if you agree, or let me know why you like being prepared. Heading into winter brings a whole new set of issues to be on edge about. I worry about if the power goes out, how are we going to stay warm? We're starting to travel a little bit more than we used to, so I think about, what's going to happen to our house if we lose power and we're not home? Or even, what if I'm home with the kids, but Mr. Wicked Prepared isn't home to wheel our gas-powered generator out and get it started? I have teenagers now. What if they're home alone and they lose power? But this year I'm feeling a whole lot better heading into winter because now we've got this tool at our disposal. Why does that make such a big difference? Let's start with heat. If you lose power or you run out of the fuel that you use for heating, it's crucial to have at least one backup. But depending on the size of your home, you may need several just to keep your pipes from freezing and to keep yourself and your pets from freezing. Over the years, we've collected a few different heaters for use in an emergency. They also come in handy in the garage or the workshop. The only problem is several of the heaters that we have still require electricity to operate efficiently. That's where a power station like the Oupes Mega3 can help us keep warm. Mr. Wicked Prepared decided to test out the Oupes Mega3 with our backup heaters, but in typical Maine fashion, not only did he test them, but he tested them all at the same time, just to see what this unit could do. Let's go through the heaters here, left to right. We've got our trusty old propane-fired torpedo. We've had this thing forever. You can hook it up to a grill tank. It has its own built-in igniter, but it needs electricity in order to power the blower fan. Next, we've got the Big Buddy, which also runs on propane. This will actually work pretty well with no electricity at all, but having the fan running really helps to push the warm air out into the room and get things circulating. You can run it on batteries in order to operate the fan, but we also got the adapter so that it could be plugged into the wall instead of just relying on batteries. Down here, we've got a heat gun, which is basically just like a hairdryer on steroids. No, you wouldn't want to heat your house with this, but it does come in awfully handy for frozen pipes or frozen fingers. And it's going to help put some more load on this Oupes so we can see what it'll do. Here in the center is a pretty basic, tiny little electric heater. This might not warm an entire house or even an entire room, but sometimes they're just what you need to keep a crawl space above freezing so that the pipes don't freeze or things like that. Anytime you're converting electricity into heat, though, Be ready to consume a lot of power, and we'll demonstrate that here in just a second. Next in line is something we just purchased recently. This torpedo heater runs on kerosene. We're hoping to start renovating an unfinished attic in our house and possibly turn it into a bedroom and office area. Leave me a hammer emoji down in the comments if you'd like to see updates of this project here on the channel. It's not exactly preparedness, but it's most certainly self-sufficiency, because we'll be doing all of the work ourselves. And when I say we, I mean Mr. Wicked Prepared, but I'll be supplying him with snacks and warm beverages while he works. That counts for something, right? Anyhow, this heater burns kerosene, but unlike some kerosene heaters that are self-contained and don't require power, this one has a fan and a thermostat, which definitely needs some kind of electricity source. And lastly, over here, this is an interesting little unit here. This heater runs on diesel, and from what we can tell, it's primarily designed for wiring into a vehicle. Think big trucks, commercial applications, and vans. This might be something that we install into our bug out van at some point. It has this exhaust pipe that you can run outdoors, and then on the front, a flexible hose where the hot air comes out. This actually runs on DC voltage, again, making it great to wire into our van. But Rob had actually just been using it in his workshop for the past few weeks and just had the wires attached to a battery charger. But in order to use it with the power station, he wired on a cigarette lighter style plug. During the first test, it wouldn't work. He checked his connections and tried it again. It continued to show an error message on the screen of the Oupes. After doing a little investigating, he found that the 12-volt plug only supplies 15 amps and the heater needs 30. So while it may work great for some kind of charger or light, it wasn't enough to run our heater. But luckily, he was able to find one of these and wire it into an Anderson plug and connect it right here to the Oupes. This is that same plug I was telling you about that we had no idea why we would need that or who would even use it. Well, it sure worked great for this application. So this heater is not exactly plug and play, but it's the perfect solution to use in a vehicle and wire into the electrical system, if that's something that you're able to do, or you could use it like this in case of emergency. I should give a disclaimer, this is all for our use only. We can't recommend that you try any of this at home. These are setups that might not be 100% safe, but we have them in place and ready to get us through an emergency situation. So Rob is just gonna plug in this tiny little electric heater and take a look at as the wattage climbs and the battery level drops. And to be honest, what it's blowing out here is warm, but it's not that warm. So it's pretty inefficient, and you can see it's just sucking the power right out of this unit really quickly. But electric heaters do have the benefit of never running out of fuel to burn. So if you can keep your power stations charged by the way of the solar panels, this could be a good solution, especially if you have a bigger electric heater. Next up, he's going to get the propane torpedo fired up. Now that's hot air blowing out of there, definitely hot. The only problem with propane is it does produce quite a bit of moisture as well as carbon monoxide, so it may not be the best choice for indoors, but if used with some common sense, it could keep you and your home from freezing. And here goes the big buddy. These tiles produce radiant heat, and then the fan blows that warm air out into the room. It's great for a small area of the house, basement, or even your workshop or garage. This is set up right now with one of these small propane canisters, but you can attach a hose and run it off a large propane tank as well. Now we'll get the kerosene and the diesel heaters running. And let me tell you, this kerosene heater is putting out some serious heat. This garage isn't insulated and it's right around 25 degrees outside, and we're actually taking our jackets off now and we really can't even stand that close. Now with all of these heaters, it's quite toasty in here, almost uncomfortably hot. And just for the fun of it, we'll get the heat gun plugged in and see what the numbers look like. Wow, that's a lot of power. With this unit just over half charged and all those heaters running, we'd have about 30 minutes of battery life. Obviously that wouldn't work in the real world, but we are extremely impressed that we can run these 6 devices all at once, and they're throwing out some awesome heat right now. But realistically here, without the electric heater and the heat gun going, we now know we could run these 4 different heaters all at the same time for probably about 10 hours on a single charge of this power station. Would we need all 4 going at once if we lost power? We definitely could, but that probably wouldn't be wise. But now we know how much time we'd have and we could decide how to use that power. We could absolutely keep our pipes in the basement from freezing with one heater and probably keep another in the main area of the house so that we could stay fairly comfortable, especially if it was the dead of winter. Then the only thing we'd have to worry about would be fuel. But that brings up a good point, and this is exactly why we believe in having backups. Here we have heaters running on 3 different types of fuel. That allows a great deal of flexibility if we run out of certain fuels or if certain fuels were just unavailable to purchase. Like I always say, backups for your backups. And it's equally as important to try these things out. We're of course doing these tests in order to share with all of you, but it's extremely important that you're testing and running your equipment regularly yourself so that you know how to use it and you can make sure it's working when you need it. In my opinion, as soon as you purchase a power station, no matter the size, charge it up, plug some things in, and test it out. The last thing you want to do is leave it in the box and never open it at all until you're actually in an emergency situation. Which brings me to what I was talking about earlier. What happens when you lose power and nobody's home? Or nobody's around to start your gas generator, or your backup generator system fails. We worry about this constantly if we leave home in the winter, even just for a few days. Our major concerns would be our refrigerator, our freezers, also our sump pump in the basement. It wouldn't take very long without electricity for all that food to go bad and the basement to flood. But this particular power station has a solution for that, and it's a game changer. It's called Uninterruptible Power Source mode, and not every power station can be used in this manner. Some do, but many are not able to be used like this. But the Mega3 is designed with this feature included. Like I said, Oupes thinks of everything. If you're not familiar, what this means is that you can plug this power station into the wall and leave it plugged in, and then plug a device or appliance into the power station. Electricity will flow straight from the wall into your appliance, and things will operate like normal. But as soon as the power outage occurs and the power station senses no electricity coming into it from the wall, in 20 milliseconds it begins supplying power from its own battery. This is the perfect way to make sure that your fridge stays running, your freezer doesn't thaw out, or your sump pump continues to have power. But also things like fish tanks, reptile enclosures, things that you think would be fine for a few days if you leave home, but could spell disaster if you lose power and don't even know about it. This feature would be great for making sure that your grow lights over your seedlings continue to operate, or even your security system or your home Wi-Fi. Many folks use cameras like the Ring doorbell that will run on battery, but it's useless without Wi-Fi. This could be a solution for that problem, assuming you don't lose internet as well. I'm sure you can think of at least one device, and probably several, that you'd like to keep energized even if the power is out. Medical devices, heat, water pumps, all of these things that you need to keep going no matter what. Oupes units are always a great deal, but if you happen to be watching this on Black Friday, the prices will never be lower than they are right now. If you follow my link in the description box below, you'll find there's a flash sale going on today, right now, on several units, including the Mega3. In addition to that, depending on your order total, Oupes is throwing in some extra goodies like flashlights, folding chairs, and solar panels. Even if you're watching this after Black Friday, if you follow the link below, that will bring you to the page with the best prices available. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me one of these emojis down in the comments. And check out this video next, where I first got the Oupes 1200 watt unit. This power station fits perfectly right in our bedroom closet. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.